In April of 2022, Elon Musk decided that he wanted to buy Twitter.com. And then soon after, he decided he did not want to buy Twitter.com, but by October, he had been forced into buying Twitter.com, and now he owns Twitter.com, but he also owns X.com, which is where Twitter now resides. I mean, you could go to Twitter.com and find Twitter, but you could also go to X.com and find Twitter. I use the word Twitter to talk about Twitter, and I use the word tweet to talk about tweets. And I know that a lot of you don't give a shit about Twitter, and I understand that. Twitter officially became X on July 23rd, 2023, and yet people mostly do not use the word X to talk about Twitter, and I don't know if they ever will, and I also don't know if they should. And recently in a video on this very YouTube channel, I referred to X making a Twitter policy, and some people were like, Hank, what are you talking about? It's X. And I want to talk about, I actually have an internal style guide for talking about Twitter and tweets and X. And I think it makes sense. And I think it's worth other people knowing about it so that you can do the same thing. Here's my argument. I am a person who lives a part of my life on social media platforms. They are social spaces where we spend pieces of our lives. And they're important to me. I feel as if I have lived a portion of my life on YouTube. I feel in many ways like I'm a greater citizen of the internet than I am of Montana. I certainly spend a huge amount of time thinking about the politics of the internet because, and we get this wrong all the time, it is a place. I don't know what places are, but I know that if I live somewhere, it's a place! And so with that in mind, if a billionaire moved into my town and they figured out how to take over the government, and then they're like, I'm in charge of the government now, the town is now called X, I would say, fuck you. My town's called Missoula. I live here. I love this place. I am not gonna let you, just because you took over the government, decide what the name of the town is. Now, of course, some billionaire couldn't just buy their way into running the government of Missoula, Montana. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, they could, Hank. America's so corrupt. But I don't think they could, honestly. I think that the people of Missoula would be like, ew, that's gross. And I think that they would become extremely unpopular and get voted out in the next election if they decided to rename the town X. That's not up to them. I will say, if you think that the company that runs Twitter is called X, that's up to you because you now own the company that runs Twitter and you can call that company whatever you want. So X, in my book, runs a website/app that's called Twitter. It is a many-to-all content platform on which I spend my time. This company called X, it runs the infrastructure, it sets the policies, but it runs an app called Twitter. Now, when Twitter became X, tweets, according to the people who run Twitter at X, shouldn't be called tweets anymore because it's not Twitter, and so it doesn't make sense to call tweets tweets when Twitter is called X. I think that you will imagine that I'm in favor of calling tweets tweets and not posts. But it actually goes farther than that for me. I don't think that any text post on a many-to-all text-based microblogging platform should be called a post. I think they should all be called tweets because that's what a tweet is. A tweet is a post on a many-to-all microblogging service, whether that's Blue Sky or Mastodon or Threads or Twitter. They're all tweets. And calling them posts is linguistically problematic because you have reverted to a less specific word. So a post could be a picture on Instagram, but it could also be a tweet on Twitter. We should have a more specific word for a text post on a many-to-all microblogging platform. So we have this word, and it's great, and we should just use it. We shouldn't have to call them threads on Threads and X posts on X and whatever they call them on Mastodon and Blue Sky. Bleats? No. What is a tweet called on Mastodon? Toots? See what I'm saying? We don't have to do this. It says that on Blue Sky they are frequently called skeets, which is, again, a huge mistake. Do they know what that word means? How did that happen? They're tweets. There are tweets everywhere. We could have avoided this if we just called them tweets everywhere the way that we call all facial tissue Kleenex. And that's not a problem. So, in summary, X is the company that runs Twitter, and a tweet is any post on a text-based, many-to-all microblogging content platform. Let's just accept this. Would the Associated Press like to get on board with my style guide? I bet they would, but I really do think that the press being strong-armed into calling Twitter X is not actually accurate. They're doing it because they're like, okay, we have to do the accurate thing, and the company that owns Twitter has renamed it X. But I think that's wrong. I don't think that Twitter is called X. I think it's called Twitter, because I don't think Twitter is a company, and I don't think it is even a product run by a company. I think that it is a community of human beings, and that community of human beings decides what that community is called, in the same way that someone could officially change the name of my town to X, and everyone would keep calling it Missoula. And if that person could not be voted out of office because democracy did not exist, and if they could not threaten us with incarceration or violence to force us to call it X, everyone would still call it Missoula. And in the same way, I just don't think we understand that these places are not like newspapers. They are social spaces in which people live. They are communities of people. And Elon Musk does not have the power, and the people who run X do not have enough power or credibility in the social space that they own to force that change. They oftentimes don't even have that power over their own minds. Elon Musk will sometimes call X Twitter. He will oftentimes call posts tweets because it's silly to call them something else. I actually beseech, if there are any journalists or opinion writers, I honestly believe that it is more incorrect to call Twitter X than to call Twitter Twitter, because it isn't just the name of a product run by a company. It is also the name of a community that is defined by the people who inhabit it. Twitter is not a text box. Twitter is not a system for posting text. It is the people who make it up. And like that sounds like I'm like getting up on a soapbox and saying something, no, we must change the way the world is, but I'm not saying that. That's the way that it is. If you actually imagine what it is in your mind, a bunch of systems for letting text be displayed on the internet is not what Twitter is. That's what the product is. I always had this problem when employees of YouTube, because employees of Google always called themselves Googlers, and then employees of YouTube started calling themselves YouTubers, and I was like, no, you guys don't get that. That's not yours. You got to find a different word. I think they still call themselves YouTubers, but everyone knows what a YouTuber is. It's not a person who runs YouTube. It's a person who inhabits YouTube. And in the same way, Twitter is not the product. We don't have a word for it, I think. I'm worried that we don't have a word for it, and that's what's causing the problem. But it is the community. It is the non-physical space that we all inhabit together, and the community that has been created, and like the conception of that place. Just like I can't fully imagine what Missoula is, but I have a conception of what Missoula is. It is a place. It is my town. And that, in the same way, I think that we should all be imagining these social platforms as if they are places. They're just non-physical places, and that the companies that run them are just the governments of those places. They aren't the place. X is not Twitter. I think that journalists actually do a disservice by calling it X. I think that that's actually wrong. But I know that it's weird. I know that it's complicated, and that like the style guide would, in a situation like this, call it X. I just think that's wrong. And that's my TED Talk. Okay, bye.